Okay. All right. So today is new build 101. So this is, if it's been a while since you've done a new build or you've never done one, this will be very helpful. So just kind of an intro to working with the builders. There is quite a bit to go over. So even if you've done a few, there might be some new stuff. So first, I just want to go into like new build versus a pre-owned home. Because there are some differences, but then there are also some similarities. Obviously you're still their representation. So new builders have what's called an agent registration, and that is their agreement to pay you a commission. Whereas a pre-owned home, we have the MLS printout, the plano, that shows what the seller is paying. You have a builder's contract versus the AAR contract, and that's very important to keep in mind because the rules that apply in an AAR contract may or may not apply in that builder contract, and the builder contract is extremely long. So it's one of those things you got to make sure you read over. When you look at the price of new builds, you have to keep in mind that it is a base price. There are some express homes where that may be the price you pay, and then you choose like a package and it might be $5,000 or $10,000 more. But the majority of the time you're gonna have a base price plus the upgrades, or sometimes they call it options, and then that gives you your final sales price of the property. Commission is typically determined by base price if commission is offered. And I put that in there just because with the demand that we saw the last couple of years, there were some builders who were not offering commission. Lennar was a big one. Some of them are still, some Lennar locations are still not offering commission. So make sure you check on this. I always call the builder first if I think that they're a builder that's not going to. I know I went into a Fulton model before. Their sales agents have stressed like they've never stopped paying agents. But some of them, even if they didn't stop paying you, they went down to 2.5, then 2, then 1.5, then 1. Like they definitely lowered it. So always check on that. And it's typically determined by the base price. Some smaller builders might have it the full price, but it will say on your agent registration. The sales agent represents the seller, aka the builder, when the buyer's agent represents the buyer. So very similar to your pre-owned homes. You will typically use their preferred title company. You don't really get a choice in this. So sometimes it's another like entity of the builder. Client signs something letting them know that they're affiliated. There's typically no negotiating, but there are some exceptions. And it depends on the market conditions. If there's very low demand, you might be able to do some negotiating. And if it's a spec or quick move-in, then you might be able to negotiate something. I've even talked to a sales agent before who said, they might even just, maybe it's not a price reduction or something, but maybe they'll throw in a fridge. So, or they'll upgrade the kitchen package or something. So there are some wiggle room sometimes, but typically if they're building from the ground up, you really can't negotiate there. So just something to keep in mind. There could be a lottery or list depending on the current market. So what we saw were lotteries because they were only selling so many lots at a time, but they had this list of 50 people, but they were only releasing like 8 lots. I had clients in these lotteries or lists. They all do it differently. I think most of them are done with it now. But if we see demand go up again, then they might bring those back. So When that happens, that's always something to make sure that you check on so that your clients are aware of that. And what I also noticed with the lotteries is if your client didn't get drawn that time, then before the next lottery, there was usually a price increase. So I kind of looked out, my clients got drawn the first time, but you know, it just all depends. There were people in many drawings, so who didn't get drawn. They usually have a preferred lender. It's not required, but we're going to kind of go into that a little further into this presentation. Procuring cause, it's just like you're the procuring cause at any listing where you bring your clients, you're the reason why they found the home. That's how the new build is. However, you have to be with them. They need to, their first visit, that you need to be with them. So we'll touch on that a little more as well. This is just a list I put together of some of the big builders in the area. Fulton Homes, they've got a pretty good reputation. Toll Brothers, those are typically higher price points, but doesn't hurt to look. It depends on the area that they're in. So these are just some of the big ones. There are many. I would encourage you to have a list of new builds ready, just so that you're aware and your clients are aware that you have all these options for builders, but they're all in different parts of town. So, but it's nice to kind of have it handy, just as a go-to resource. So when you have a client, so clients in new build, so you may not have a client that's interested in new builds right away. Always bring it up though. When you are doing a buyer presentation, bring up the possibility. I had clients that were wanting to custom build and buy land because they didn't want an HOA, but they ended up building. So, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well, that experience. But so you want to always bring it up because they cannot go into that new build without you. Make sure you're their resource. Okay, make sure, you know, they come to you when they have questions on them and they're not calling the builder directly. You need to be with them on their first visit, make sure they realize that. So I had the land clients, and one Saturday they wandered into this new build just to see what it was about. I was not with them. And I talked to her the very next day. And she did tell me that they signed in. Well, somebody told me a while back, like, if that happens, it shouldn't, but if it happens, you know, because you should go over it, but I was very new. So I called and I just kind of stated my case to the sales agent, and he allowed me to represent that client. It never hurts to ask, but try to avoid it, because I may not have been so lucky. And that one was actually good for everybody involved, because at one point the sales agent and the client couldn't stand each other. They were so upset with the building process, and I think my client even made him cry. So they were all done with each other, and I think everybody involved was very happy that I could relay information between them. Make sure you complete an agent registration from the first visit. This is, in their eyes, the way you've established agency, and it says what they will pay you. Sometimes this can change. So just like I was saying, how builders, you know, they went from 3% to like 1.5% last year. If you, let's say you took them in and you didn't register them and you come with them on their next one, well, they could be offering less now. So you want to get it in writing. And you want to have it ready. And then this way, if they want to bring their mom in or somebody, and you're not available, they can go in without you, and you've already established your agency with them, with the builder. Explain your value as a buyer's agent in the new build process. Why do they need you when there's a sales agent? I explain to my clients, you will sign something saying that that sales agent does not represent you and represents the builder. You know, at the end of the day, that's their employer and that's who they represent. And then, you know, a lot of times things are okay, but then there are times that things go wrong, and it's good to have somebody in your corner, and it's not going to cost them any extra. Nobody's going to get a discount because they don't have to pay an agent. The builder just pockets that. So I always explain that when I go over this as part of my initial meeting with buyers. You know, this is why it's important to make sure that I'm there, because that way, you know, they will call you. And I tell them, even if you're driving by and you're like, oh, I don't want to bother Stephanie, please bother me, because we want to make sure that we have this covered. Because not only would I not get paid, they would also not have their representation. They pretty much waive their right to that. And it even says on the door, if you have an agent representing you, they need to be with you on the first visit. But of course, it's like the smallest thing on the door. How do you find them? I remember as a kid, we'd like see the flags and we'd want to go into the model homes. The MLS has a couple search engines. I am not crazy about the RL Brown, but the NHS Pro is pretty good. The only thing about the NHS Pro is it's going to show you every individual floor plan that fits the criteria you put in. So I will usually pull up that list and I will look at that location, and then I'll send them a link to those floor plans, because otherwise I'm sending them all these individual floor plans where you can kind of rule some of them out just at a glance. Create your own list of builders. This goes back to being a resource for your clients. You know, show the value and, you know, provide a list for them. Once you start working more of them, you kind of have an idea of which builders are where, which, you know, communities have which builders and the price point of those communities. And that's just gonna come with previewing those properties and taking the time to research those. Keep a list handy and make sure to update it. Upfront paperwork. So this is similar to a pre-owned. These are some of the forms that you will need, and Lisa will want you to upload into SuiteAssist. So I usually just have buyers like fill these out ahead of time anyway, so that they're ready to go. But you will need them for new builds as well. Mold disclosures, property specific, so I don't do that until they go under contract. And then pool disclosure if applicable. Most new builds are not going to have a pool because that's going to go in after, but let's say they buy a model home or something with a pool, then it would come into play. And then the builder registration, that really is the most important things. Oops. Because without that is your evidence of getting paid. And that is what holds them accountable to pay you. What to expect on your first visit: be with your clients. Can't be with them, but you should be. Call and ask about pre-registering online and see what their procedures are. Some of them, you know, if you call and you register them ahead of time, you know, it kind of depends on the sales agent or the builder's procedures. Some of them will not allow you to do this, but if you're having a hard time where you can't make it, this is something to check on. You could send a trusted Bliss agent with them. You know, make sure that you've established some type of agency or some type of agreement with that agent, so that everybody's happy. My clients went without me. Don't let this happen. If it does, first double check with the client, see if they filled anything out. Okay, they may have snuck in there under the radar and didn't fill out a registration. Actually had a friend of my mom's go into a new build and the guy tried to chase him down on a golf cart, but she would not sign it. Anyway, second, call the sales agent ASAP, just like I did with mine. See, just ask, it does not hurt. And you know, at the end of the day, you don't want to miss out on it, so do everything you can. Complete the registration and make sure you get a copy. Sometimes they misplace their copy. This has happened to me several times where, oh, I don't know where I put that, or I don't know why. But you know, because to me it's not coming out of the sales agent's pocket, but yeah, they have misplaced it more than once in my case. So whenever my clients are coming in for that first meeting to write the contract, I always have that registration with me, because yeah, that's why. So make sure you get a copy. And that's pretty much it. The sales agent does need to sign it, so double check that. This is a registration example. I just blacked out my client's info. This one's Taylor Morrison. And there are just a few things that I highlighted here. The first thing is commission. This one says 3% of base price. When I took some clients into the same community several months later, it was down to 1.5%. But that's important to pay attention there and to make note that it is of the base price. And then it's even got the verbiage there for registering. They must be there on the first visit. And then on the second page, it goes into the term. These registrations expire. So what you need to do with that is, if it's approaching, some of these are 30 days also. If it's approaching the expiration, make sure to email the agent, get their response in writing. What they'll usually have you do, what they've done with me in the past, is we've just filled out a new registration and renewed it. But keep an eye on that, because you don't want that to expire and then you can no longer represent those clients. So so that's an example of one. Most of them look like this, but those are some things to look for, especially the commission and the term. You want to make sure that you stay within that time frame. Real quick, we'll just touch on the qualifications. Don't let your license lapse during this time. Don't let it lapse ever, but you know, just keep that in mind. If you no longer have your license, then they can't really pay you. So prepare for your visit and have questions ready. So this goes back to being a resource for your clients. Make sure that you know what questions to ask. Make sure you know what is important to them and their timeline. Do they have time to start a build from the ground up, or do they need a quick move-in? And quick move-ins could be, you know, anywhere from ready now to ready 6 months from now. Like, so they're not always super quick. It just is going to depend on the builder and where they're at with inventory. Prepare them for 10 to 20% above the base price for builder options. So when you're helping them with their search, send them properties 10 to 20% less than what they can afford or what they qualify for, because otherwise they're not going to be able to put in very many options. I've had clients do options closer to the 10%, and I've had clients do options closer to the 20%. Depends on your client. And I think that that's something where you kind of got to get a feel for them on, okay, are they gonna be reasonable with it? If you send something that with a base price that is closer to their top of their budget, then you need to let them know we can go view these. However, it's not going to leave a lot of room for options. If they're okay with that, that's fine. I've had clients do a lot of basics and some just go above and beyond. There are some express homes, that's what I was talking about earlier, where the options may just be packages, and it may just be like, well, this package for larger tile is 5,000 more, and this package with upgraded tile, granite, and backyard landscaping is 10,000 more, or whatever. So some of them are much cheaper, and they're a little more affordable. They're more in that lower price point, typically, where they keep those. So those are kind of nice for people that don't have a large budget. Basic questions to always address. There are a lot of questions, but these are the ones that I find, if a client is very interested in, or it might be a deciding factor that I find are helpful. What is included in the base price? This is often on the sheet that you get, the price list, that shows all the models and their prices. There's often something with that shows what's included. But if there's something that's not on there and you're not sure about, always ask. Landscaping, most of them come with front yard landscaping, but it might not, so you always want to ask. Cabinets, sometimes they put cabinets in the models that are not standard and they're extra. Flooring, most of the time it comes standard tile in wet areas only, and then everything else is carpet. Sometimes it's not. Countertops, what's their standard countertop? Sometimes it's laminate, sometimes it's granite. So you always want to ask about those things and whatever else might be important to your client. Are there currently any builder or lender incentives? Most of the time a builder will offer money towards closing costs or towards options, or both. A lot of times that is paired with using their preferred lender. I've had clients get into new builds who've used like down payment assistance for like $200. So that is a good question to ask, because then that covered their closing costs. If they do not qualify with their preferred lender, ask what happens if that's the case. Some of them, if as long as you attempt to use their preferred lender, and you don't qualify, but you qualify with another lender, then they may let you still have those incentives. They may not. Some of them will give you those incentives if they're paying cash. Some will not. So if that's the case with any of your clients, you can always, that's a question to ask. And it's probably a question to ask, on a case-to-case basis. What is your availability of lots? Are there any lot premiums? Some builders, they have a few lots that have lot premiums. Some have a lot premium on almost every single lot. Typically, if something's like a corner lot and it's not surrounded by another house on all three sides, there's usually a premium for that, or a larger lot, or one tucked away in the cul-de-sac. They want to charge you more for putting your home on that lot. And availability of lots, that also kind of goes back to like the lotteries and the lists. Can I sign for a lot right now, or do I have to wait and see what happens? What is your build time? So I feel like in the past it was like, around 8 months. Now it seems like a lot of them are taking more like 10 to 12 months. So that's an important question to ask, because it depends on the builder. Some of them, like Meritage, is one where they've already started the home and they've already got things improved by the city. They don't have the plethora of options like some of the other builders, but that's because they've already ordered the cabinets. Those are something that take a while. They've already ordered all these things, so they're already further ahead in the process than a builder who you go in and you literally pick all of your options. What specs or quick move-ins do you have available? Most of the time they'll have a list of these to give you and the price point. And that kind of goes back to timeline as well. They'll usually have an estimated date that will be ready. Do you have any floor plans not modeled to view? So a lot of times they may have just a few of the floor plan options that they actually offer in that community. Some of my clients are very good at looking ahead of time online, but they'll also see it on the sheet. Oh, that's about the size we want with the number of bedrooms, you know, but they don't have it modeled. So I always ask, do you have this home in progress, or do you have a spec available for us to walk through? If somebody has already purchased one, they may have one that is in the drywall stage that they will take you to and walk you through. Sometimes they'll have it modeled at another location as well, that you could go see and still build at the location that they want. Does the community or city have limitations on what floor plans and elevations go where? Some cities, some communities say you cannot have the home with the same elevation. So in case you're unaware of what elevation is, that's what the front of the house looks like. Is it Spanish? Is it Santa Fe? Is it prairie? You know, whatever it is. A lot of them won't let you have the same elevation or the same floor plan next door or across the street. I actually had clients who chose an elevation, builder said it was okay. The city came back to them and said, no, we can't put that. Their second choice was actually a more expensive option. So I said, well, you know, it was a lottery situation. I said they chose that lot because they wanted that elevation and they were under the impression that they can get it. They don't want these other ones. Will the builder eat that fee for the more expensive elevation? And they did. They did own up to their mistake and gave them that elevation for no upcharge. But that is something to keep in mind, you know, to let your clients know, and to always have a backup, either lot that they like or backup elevation. What earnest money is required? Okay, how much are they going to have to put down? Some are $500, some are $10,000 or $15,000. So this could, you know, make or break somebody if they don't have $15,000 in their bank account. What warranties are offered through the builder and manufacturers? Most builders offer a 1-year builder warranty. And then there are other warranties included with like appliances and air conditioners. So you want to double check and see what those are. Request a price sheet for you and your clients to review. Some of them still will give you paper, others they want you to go online. And then grab a list of quick move-ins for them as well. The builder contract, again, it's on AAR contract. Make sure you go over it carefully. There are definitely some things in this that might surprise you. A few things to make sure you point out and clarify that are typical, but that's why you need to read the whole thing, because every builder is different. So definitely be diligent about looking over their contract. The sales agent works and represents the builder. This is what I was talking about earlier. Yes, they do actually sign this acknowledging that. The contract timeline to build may not be what the sales agent quotes them. So if they say it's going to take 10 to 12 months, the builder does want to get it done. They want to get paid. So that is their goal. But a lot of them will have in there that they have up to 2 to 3 years to complete. So if they take longer than that, there's not really a whole lot you can do because their contract says something different than what they've quoted you. So I let people know that. I have not had this take place. However, I have had new builds take longer than they were quoted. It didn't take 2 to 3 years, but it definitely went several months past. Look for additional money down for options. So some of them, if you go over a certain percentage or a certain cost of options, then they want more down. Some of them it's okay, if you pick more than 50,000 of options, then you pay the difference at that point, and that's more money down. Some of them will say if you go past 20% of the base price, then you need to pay the difference. Some of them might say for every dollar over 50,000, we want 20% up front. And this is just because if for some reason you back out, your client backs out, then the more options that they put in, the more specific it is to you, and the less market they may have to sell that home for. So that's typically their reason for doing that. It's usually, it just depends on the client again, whether they're closer to that 10% of the sales price or 20%. The last one I saw, I think it was like 70,000 if it exceeded 70,000, which is quite a bit of options. So just make sure you point that out to them, because you don't want them to be caught off guard and they go to the design center and they pick out all these great options and then they can't give them this money, and now they're all sad because they got to cut back on things. Make sure you are listed on the contract. I always double check this. You have your registration form, but double check it. When you get these contracts, you're under contract for a long time. It's much better if you catch this when you first see the contract than right before closing. So pay attention, make sure you're actually on the contract. There will be many addendums. So, and then there'll be more after there will be another one after all the options are finalized. They have all these different addendums that they add to it. Make sure they are separated when you upload them in Suite Assist. Oops, sorry, I didn't realize that was the last one. So when Lisa reviews your documents, she doesn't want like 70 pages. So split them up and make sure you upload those separately. How is this different? Make sure you accompany them on their first visit and complete a registration. You should be accompanying clients to showings, unless you have another agent go with them anyway, but make sure you're there first time, registration, accompanying them to the signing of the contract. The sales agent writes the contract, which is a little bit different. So the seller is technically writing it, but it's their contract. And they will typically collect the earnest money at this time, whereas usually, title sending a courier to go pick that up. Accompany clients to pick out their options if that is allowed. We were talking about this before the recording, that during COVID, a lot of them wouldn't let you go. This was actually very upsetting to me because I had several new builds during COVID, and this is my favorite part. And I couldn't go with my clients to those meetings, but you could create a list of things that you might recommend. You can offer to FaceTime them. So There are other things you can do if they would like you there. A lot of people just like to have another third party opinion with them, but they are within a designer. But you might have more sensible advice than the designer. Then you wait. Make sure you're checking on the build process periodically. Check in with your clients and the sales agents for updates. Drive by, take pictures, go inside if you can. Make sure things are being done the way that they should be done. And then this just shows your clients that you care and you are valuable to have. You know, this is just, you're just another resource. So, you know, make sure that you're doing that, because the sales agents do follow up with them a lot. So make sure you're also doing that so that the sales agent doesn't look better than you do. And make sure that you're checking on the home, that it's being built, and that's being built properly. So, you know, people really appreciate this. So make sure that you're involved. Some agents just, they get the contract and then they show up for keys, and it's not really fair to their clients. Pre-drywall inspection. I will always try and go to these. This is to make sure that, you know, anything within the walls is how it's supposed to be. So if they've added outlets, which is something that I always suggest to people, because if they don't, they'll wish that they had. Do they have wiring for ceiling fans? Do they have wiring for the lights where they want it? So they will do that before drywall gets put up. Pre-closing orientation. This is kind of like your final walkthrough. This is where you put blue tape everywhere for them to fix. I encourage my clients to be nitpicky, you know, like, yeah, mark it if you're unhappy with it, if that's not how it's supposed to look. It's a brand new home, and it should be as close to perfect as possible. So you know, I've seen where light switches are totally crooked, like everywhere. So, and I'm like, make them fix it, you know? You know, just different things could come up. So, they'll do that. They'll make note of the things that need to be fixed. Everybody will sign something, and then hopefully they're fixed before closing. Sometimes it does go past closing, but that kind of goes into the builder warranty. Review the settlement statement for accuracy. Make sure that your client's fees are correct. You should do this anyway with any transaction. But I have had it happen with a builder, especially with the commissions dwindling down. They tried to give me 2.5% on something that was 3%. So, you know, make sure you calculate that, make sure that it's correct, and make sure that the fees that they're charging your clients are the actual fees. I even went back into the contract and looked into several fees, especially since my commission was wrong. I just wanted to make sure that they didn't cut corners anywhere else. Signing in keys. They will usually sign before the close date and before they get keys. They'll usually walk the home before, and they'll make note from everything that was blue taped that didn't get done, to make sure that they do that in the warranty period. Where's the home inspection? So most builders provide the 1-year warranty. So I recommend, along with most of the sales agents, to conduct that 9 to 10 months after they move in. And then they can submit it for the builder to fix at that point. Because you've already done all these other inspections and you do have this warranty. I've had people just send the home inspection report with a list of repairs, and they've come and done them all. So that's what I typically will recommend to clients. Okay, so you want new build clients. What are some ways to market? These are just some ideas. Preview the models, post content, post on your stories. If there's a grand opening of a new builder, hey guys, new community in Queen Creek, contact me for questions. You could be the new build expert to your sphere. So I let people on my social media know that not only can I help you get into a pre-owned home, but I can also help you with new builds. I don't think a lot of people realize that they can have an agent represent them with a new build, because a lot of people don't have an agent. And so if they know that they can have their own agent, doesn't cost them any more money to do that, and they have somebody in their corner, then most people are happy to call you for that. Provide educational content. Okay, so why do they need you? What value do you bring? What are some of the things that can go wrong with a new build that you can help with? Post to your stories. Post stories, create reels, TikToks, YouTube videos. Again, that can be educational. You could put some sneak peeks up of the new build. I've even done like a poll. What do you guys think of, the floating shelf, the floating cabinets, or what do you think of, this kitchen? So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. Use hashtags and location. I don't really give people the exact location because I want them to call me. But if you use the location of the town of Gilbert, then more people in Gilbert will see it. Or maybe they're searching in Gilbert, and use hashtags. All right, I know I did a lot of talking, so that is pretty much all I have. And I know it was kind of information overload. I just wanted to make sure that we end in time. Are there any questions, or Mara, Lisa, you want to add anything?
I think that was great. I think you really covered it, especially like doing the home inspection towards the end of that first year and submitting all your requests for repairs, because they will come in that one time only. So you want to live in the house and see where things are at, what you notice before you submit your list. That's really nice.
Yeah, and most of them will tell you too that there's going to be settling take place. So I've had clients, they blue tape a bunch like on the stucco outside, and the super's like, we can fix this now, but if I fix this now, I can't fix it later. And if we wait till later, it's given the home more time to settle, and it makes more sense to fix it then. And that makes perfect sense to me. Some of them even have certain things, like they'll do like a 3-month request, a 6-month, and a 9-month, for certain things. So just going to depend on the builder, but they will usually go over that at closing. So yeah, that is good to know. And then the manufacturer warranties, those are things that they have to register like their appliances for. So they need to make sure that they do that so that they don't miss out on it. A lot of air conditioners can be 5 to 10 years, but they have to register it. So, but they will typically go over all that, but I like to be there for that so that I know that they did go over it. But yeah, I know it's kind of a lot. So, yeah, but that's pretty much all I have. Anybody else?
I think so. So yeah, that was great.
Oh,
that really did cover the gambit.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording then.
Okay.
Sure.